Have you ever wondered what it would be like to play hickory golf? It's not as hard as you might think, and while you're unlikely to hit the ball as far as you do with your modern clubs, the reward and fun you'll get from playing good shots is just as high, if not higher. In this, the first of a two-part video, we'll explore ways to play around with hickory shafted clubs, where you could buy your own, and then take a look at my own clubs. And in part 2, I'll play 8 holes with them and show you how they perform. So how can you experience golf from the hickory age? Probably the easiest way is as part of an organised day by a golf club. These are often held to celebrate a club's centenary or similar, but can be arranged for any event. Sets of hickory shafted clubs can be hired from specialist companies, up to about 50 or 60 sets, each comprising of maybe half a dozen clubs, which is all you need to enjoy your round. I'll put the name of one such company in the video description below. Alternatively, you can acquire your own clubs, either unrestored originals from antique fairs or eBay, or restored clubs from traders, or newly produced sets from one of the companies producing these. I built up my own set by buying cheap clubs, mainly from eBay. There's a lot of good stuff to be found on YouTube, as usual. 2 channels I'd recommend for starters are the Hickory Hacker, based from America, and Timewarp Golf, based in the UK. Let's have a look at my own clubs now. We'll begin as usual with the woods. Woods for hickory play are the hardest things to find. There are so many out there that aren't really suitable. Lots of them have got shorter shafts. You often find that the heads are quite light, so the swing weight isn't what it should be. I've bought several hickory woods over the years trying to find a good tee club. This is actually a very heavy club. I've measured the swing weight on it and it came out at I think F7. It's got a brass plate there, but it does definitely look like a driver. It's quite a long shaft as well, but I'll put the lofts and everything for all the clubs up at the end of the video. Move on to the irons now. So this is my long iron, I suppose you'd call it. It's a 2 iron. Bring that round so we can get that the right way up. We can see the mark there, the pipe cleat mark, which is marked for Tom Stewart, and then we've got the professional's name who would have assembled the club, Douglas Kilachy, and forged in Scotland, 2 iron. This is how a lot of hickory clubs are. It's a raw steel club. Some people will polish these up to bright finish. I prefer to see the raw pattern on the club. Nice hickory shaft as you'd expect. So that's the 2 iron. Next in the lineup we've got this club, which is a Jigger. It's got a propeller cleat mark. I'm not sure who that maker is. Rustless iron. It's a stainless steel club, and we've got the name of the professional there, Watts of, what does that say, Mundersley Golf Club. I'm not sure where that is. Sorry for the dirt on these. I'm actually filming these after I've played them on the course. I should have cleaned them up first really. But a Jigger is a club with quite a bit of weight at the bottom. It's still obviously a pure blade, but there is quite a bit of weight at the bottom. And for that reason they're often used after the hickory era for short shots around the green. People would shorten the shafts and use it as like a chipping club, because it would get a nice bit of backspin on the ball. This one is a full length shaft, but it's a very nice club for approach shots from quite a way out. Next we've got this one. I'm not sure whose cleat mark that is. G. Bowser was the professional. Rustless, and this one gives an approximate distance that the player could expect to hit the ball of the time, which would be an early wound ball, 110 or 130 yards. And when you look at the loft on the club, it's quite clear that distances were a lot less than they are now. It's a dot face club, again very dirty. I need to clean that up. Next we've got another mashie. This is I can't remember whose cleat mark that is, the arrow through a circle. This one's called a number 2 mashie. Doesn't mean anything, the number 2, and it just says rustless, guaranteed forged. All clubs were forged at this time. Again, it's very thin sole as on most of the clubs. This one's got some whipping down at the hosel area, which is something that a lot of club restorers like to do to support the the wood in that stressful point of the club. I don't normally bother myself. I did buy this club from a good friend, and he put that on there. He likes to use that support for the club. Another stainless club. So that's two mashes we've looked at. We're now getting down to the more lofted clubs. This one is a mashy Niblick, we can see there, and again we've got an approximate flight on this one, 90 to 110 yards. Now the maker on this one might be familiar to a few of you. It's J Letters and Company, John Letters, who were one of the biggest manufacturers in the country at one time. And we can see there their bridge cleat mark, that's the Swilcan Bridge at St Andrew's Old Course. I think they started in 1919, I'll confirm that somewhere up here when I edit the final video. And if we look at the face on this one, you can see it's a lined face, quite a big radius on the toe there, and not a lot of lining on it. But it's a nice club to play. We'll just have a quick look at the grip. I've restored all of these clubs except the one with the whipping at the end, and re-grip them at the same time if the grips are too far gone. If you can, it's nice to retain the original grip, but often they're missing altogether. And this is just a piece of leather with the rough side out, which means that they're easier to hold in wet weather and such like. And we've got linen thread whipping at the end there, and whipping at the end there as well. And there'll be a small tack in there to start the whipping off. There's lots of videos on how to do this on YouTube, so if you do want to re-grip a club, you can find videos very easily. Right, the last of the irons I'll be using, I'm sure I've shown this one before, quite recently in fact. It's a Niblick, which is generally the most lofted club that you'll find. And this one's by Kinghorn Golf Company. Have a look at the face. It's a punch dot face. Again, it's a raw steel finish. You can see how play does tend to remove the rust off the face of them. And if we look at the sole on that one, it's a very narrow sole yet again. There's no bounce on it, so you've got to be very precise, particularly with the weather we've been having recently. When the course is muddy, if you just catch it a little bit before the ball, it just digs straight in. And finally, we've got the putter. Don't know whether I've shown this one before. I've certainly shown, I've got a steel shafted version of it because it is a putter that I do like. It's a Spalding putter. I've got the Spalding cleat mark there. Does it say Spalding on it? No, it doesn't. We've just got the name of the professional, who was Bert Seymour from Ipswich. But the anvil cleat mark tells us that it was made by Spalding. Nicely tells us it's a putter there, and on the sole it's got, let's bring that round, so number 8 and W. Whether it was a women's model, I'm not sure. The other version of this is called W model, so I think it could actually just be the model reference for the club. But I do like the long blade. Just talk briefly about buying hickory clubs. Should you want to take or try your luck at hickory, you can hire sets. There's a couple of companies that do hire for golf club events. They generally have like 50 sets or so that can be hired out. That's a good way of having a go at it. Or you can build up a set of your own. You can also buy new sets. There are manufacturers that do make hickory clubs still. They do work out very expensive though, and to my mind they remove a bit of the fun of hickory golf, which is building up your own set. If you buy a set from one of the new manufacturers, they will all be the same style. They generally tend to be the best designs that were available towards the end of the hickory era. So they might have a sole, a flange on the sole, and they'll just generally be very optimised for hickory play. So the lofts will be nicely stepped, the shaft lengths will all be very similar. Going back to the actual hickory era, it was normal for golfers to buy their clubs one at a time. It wasn't until right at the end of the hickory era that we started to see match sets. So a golfer would possibly see his professional, say he wants a mashie or a club to hit a certain distance. The professional would probably know the golfer already, so he'd know what length and stiffness of shaft he would want. The shaft stiffness you can adjust. This is wood, so you can just sandpaper it down, remove wood from the shaft to get the desired flex that you require. So you can do custom fitting with them, although it is very rudimentary. I've bought all of my clubs myself on eBay. They are quite easy to find if they've not been restored, but as I say, the woods are the hardest things to find. When you get them, the best thing to do, especially with the irons, is to remove the head. And let me just see if I've got, let's get this one, because I did do this one recently. This is the John Letters club. I did a few modifications on this one, but if you look at here, there is a metal pin. These are pinned heads, so the shaft tapers down, the wooden shaft tapers down to a point in here, and there's a hole that goes all the way through there, and that goes through the wooden shaft, and it's then hammered into place. When you restore the clubs, it's normal to use epoxy resin to further strengthen that fit, because they're sometimes quite loose. You knock the old pin out, remove the head, clean up inside the hosel. There's lots of videos on doing this again, so I won't go into detail about it. The other adaptation I made to this club, it was quite a short shaft, so I've just spliced on an extra inch or two on the end of the shaft. A lot of hickory clubs were cut down for juniors to start playing with, so it's not uncommon to find shafts that are 2 or 3 inches shorter. So that's some basic tips to building up a set. Really, it's just a matter of finding the lofts that you need. If you look at the photograph I'm bringing up now, you can see that the shaft lengths on this set that I'm playing don't all follow a nice even progression. Some are a little bit longer than you would expect, and some parts a little bit shorter. Yeah, it might take a while to build up a set. You can buy restored clubs, original clubs that have been restored. They're generally a reasonably matched set of clubs, but they will cost you a few £100 if you go down that route. Or you can buy individual clubs that have been restored, which is perhaps a good way to get your T club, because as I say, that's the hardest one to find. There are a couple of companies, I'll put the names down in the description, or at least one I can think of, that will be able to supply you with a completed and refurbished club. Well, I've already played the clubs on the course, so let's see how I got on with them. Earlier in the video I said that I'd give the swing weights for the clubs, so here's a table showing the swing weights that I know of, along with the lofts for the irons. And as you can see, there's quite a nice spread of lofts on the irons. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in part 2, where I venture out onto the course with the clubs. Bye.